All right, today's about snake talk. Now, while I'm, talking about some popular issues in the snake community, and and some things that just you might be interested to know that you hear all the time, you're not really sure what it means, things like that. Anyhow, I'm just going to give you my views on things, and hey, you might learn something. Who knows? Now, if you've seen my show before, it's usually going to be all about herping. I'll be out there checking out the reptiles in the wild, studying their behavior and things like that. That's what I'm all about, and that's what you usually see on my channel. However, it is, of course, too cold to be out herping, so I figured I'd go over a few things with you guys and, see what you think. All right, so first off, when I say this is usually a herping channel, which it is, herping. Do you know what that means? I'm sure you've heard that term several times, all on the internet, different places. Certainly if you've been watching reptile channels, you've heard the term herping. And it's not talking about a kinkersaur. It's talking about, the study of reptiles, herpetology. So that's what we're talking about. So when you hear someone say, I'm a herper, or I'm going herping, they're not talking about, a clinic visit. They're talking about studying reptiles.
Again, I just love these guys. I mean, there's something about pit vipers. They have just awesome looking faces, or heads, or however you want to say. I call it a face because it's a face right there. This dude, look at him.
All right, so that's just the first thing, and not necessarily like a huge point to the conversation, but it's just something to start, somewhere to start, because if you're watching a herping channel, wouldn't you like to know exactly what that meant, what that word meant? I figured, like I say, I know you guys probably already know this stuff, but just in case you didn't, doesn't hurt to clarify. Now, if you do know what herping is, and you do watch a lot of these channels, and then also especially even if you watch some of the channels of people that have their private collections, there's another term that you hear all the time lately, and of the last couple of years especially, I would say, which is free handling.
This guy is such a little sweet little fellow.
Now, you rarely hear that term, used with much emphasis if it's not about venomous snakes. And we all know that if you've seen, well, I'm not going to go naming names of channels, but there are those channels who do it, and then there are those channels who talk about it. And then, of course, the lights go out in the enclosure while we're talking, but that's fine. Anyway, because they're on a timer. As I'm sure most of you guys have that kind of set up at your house too. Now, no doubt I'm concerned about people who actually might try to imitate my actions, and that's why I warn against it. Because I do free handle, if you want to call it that, but I don't really do it to an extent that I think some others may, but not that it makes it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Because in the long run, what I'm really trying to say is that as long as you're letting people know that it's not something that just anyone can do, and it's not something that is super safe to do, you're not saying, oh yeah, well, people say it's not safe, but just pick them up. I mean, it's just a little venom, No, that's not what they're saying. Well, let's see, that's not what I'm saying, at least. And so, what I'm saying is, hey, how'd you like to see the behavior of a venomous snake as it's being handled hands-on by someone who knows how to do so?
He was a little bit high-strung to begin with, but you're fine, pal.
And so what is the actual just human to snake reaction? Are they monsters and things like that? Because I know they're not. And I know that a lot of people really don't know that. They really think that, snakes are monsters and they're evil, horrible, heartless creatures that just want to kill everything. And that's just not the truth. So that's where I come from in all this, is that, I want to share with people how awesome our snake friends are.
Nice little baby copperhead. Again, they do have hemotoxic venom, so what I'm doing here, do not do this at home.
Overall, I just don't think it's incredibly cut and dry. Because, I mean, what if you could ask most reptile enthusiasts who is their biggest inspiration? Who do you think that they would say? I mean, what is the predictable answer? Steve Irwin. He free-handled venomous snakes on a regular basis. On a regular basis, in short shorts. And, you know, I mean, he free-handled the deadliest snakes in the world in short shorts. Would I recommend to do that? No. Do I think he's a horrible person for doing that? Also, no. Because guess what? He knew what he was doing. There was, of course, a very unfortunate accident that caused him his life, but it had nothing to do with free-handling venomous snakes. And I'm not saying it can't cause you your life, because it can. It absolutely can. And if you don't actually understand the consequences, and also not just the consequences, but how to deal with the consequences for what may happen, I absolutely would say don't handle venomous snakes. And I would say that most people should probably not most people shouldn't handle venomous snakes. If I can speak, I can tell you about it. But anyhow, I think it's also important for people across the world to be able to see the awesome behavior and interaction between human and venomous reptiles, specifically, not just your average reptile that it bites you, nothing happens, but actually the venomous ones, the ones that people go out and take a shovel to whenever they see them behind their house, which there's no reason to do. And if they learned the behavior of these animals, I'm thinking that maybe that would happen just a little bit less. And I mean, I think that'd make us all happy. I mean, it'd make me happy. I know that.
Guy, give him a little pet. Oh, buddy. He's a good pal. He's a good little pal. Yeah. He's a good pal.
Now, venom itself is a modified enzyme that is produced inside or by the venom gland, and stored there in the venom sac. And it is used for taking down their prey. If you've ever seen a venomous snake, feed or hunt, you would know that their venom is very important. It's very, very important when it comes to how they're actually going to subdue their prey. They don't want to waste venom on a large mammal like yourself, because if they did, it's not like it just gets replaced. It's not like saliva that just gets replaced, automatically. So they're going to have to reproduce that venom, which means it's going to be that much longer until they can actually catch a meal and eat. And they don't want to do that. So that's not actually their first thing. Isn't just, hey, there goes something that moves. Let me immediately put venom in it, even if there's no way for me to eat it. That's not what they're about. And that's part of what I like to show on my show. so that's part of why I do what I did. And of course, there's a episode a few episodes back. I did a show on that, or basically a segment, I should say, on that about where I free-handled a venomous snake, being a copperhead, which of course I handle all the time, and I probably handle a few hundred of them a year, maybe more. Anyhow, and I study the same specimen, the same individuals, I should say, over time too. There's some individuals I've been studying for the last 2 or 3 years, and it's pretty awesome to see how they develop too. I mean, in the wild. So anyhow, I come in contact with them all the time. I handle them on a pretty regular basis. I don't handle every single venomous snake that I come in contact with, because it's not the same thing as it being in your private collection. And even if you're a venomous keeper and you have a private collection, they have moods. But, they're not always in the same mood. But when you're dealing with a wild snake, you have no idea what mood it's going to be in. And if you don't know the individual, you really don't know what mood it might be in, because you're not really that familiar with its behavior. Now, like I say, I do handle the same individual over time, maybe several times per year. However, you're never 100% sure. So you do have to actually gauge every time I have a interaction with any snake. I'm gauging what it's going to do. Now, obviously, if it has no venom to do anything to me, I'm a little bit less concerned about getting bit, and I have been bitten on more than one occasion.
Oh yeah, that's my hand. Oh yeah, that's my hand. That's right. Oh yeah, that's a lot of blood. That nice anticoagulant.
By non-venomous snakes. I've never been bit by a venomous snake. That's not wood. I don't know why I knocked on it. That's PVC. Anyhow, but I've never been bitten by a venomous snake. That's not to say that I never could or never will, because, maybe I will, hopefully not. I'm going to do everything I can not to, outside of not picking up venomous snakes, which seems like that's a major part. But anyway, look at this fella. Look at this nice little fella. Isn't he cool? Little broad-banded water snake. Nerodia fasciata confluens. All right, so I've been around reptiles my whole life. When I was a little boy, my dad had pythons and boas, and even at one point he had a couple of alligators. But really, for the most time, I think I was around. Burmese pythons. That was the most common snake that he had. And I also was around, for a few red-tailed boas and things like that. And that's pretty much, actually, if I think back, I think that's mostly, it's the only kind of snakes that I remember him keeping was, Burmese pythons and red-tailed boas. So that, from a young age, as far as snakes go, that's what I was around. And then, of course, the baby crocodiles, the baby American alligators, which were awesome. I wasn't around for quite as long. It was, honestly, I think a pretty impetuous decision on my dad's part, considering that we were living in an apartment when he got those. This was back in the 80s where people had, that's where people did make, I think, a little more questionable decisions on a regular basis when it came to what kind of reptile to get. But, it was a bad decision. From what I understand, I believe he gave my one of my uncles, or no, it's actually one of my second cousins, and not that it matters. He gave the alligators to him first, and then they ended up releasing them, to my knowledge. But anyhow, that's kind of the start. So when I was a kid, I was around reptiles right from the beginning. From my dad. That's what I was around at home. And then I had uncles and even my grandpa that were all reptile lovers. I mean, as far as snake lovers, and even what am I trying to say? Yeah, tarantulas, things like that. So I was around a few different exotic animals as a kid. And let's not forget the herping, though. I started herping when I was a really young kid, and even before I started herping, I was probably around maybe around the age of 6 or so, and my dad would take me out, when he would go hunting, and not hunting, but checking his feeders, his deer feeders, and he would teach me about, the things that we'd come in contact out there, whether it's banana spiders, whether it's water moccasins, whether it's, garter snakes or what have you, which actually, which probably wasn't garter snakes, it was more likely ribbon snakes, being where we live, but, that's not the point. I was taught about that. I was also taught how to track animals, by spotting their habitat, and also spotting the habitat that was conducive to their prey items, and water sources, things like that. So so I was taught that from a young age, and then so I went out herping from the age of maybe, I want to say about 8 years old. I started herping and looking for reptiles in the wild, specifically snakes. I did catch some lizards up in Colorado. I caught horned lizards when I lived there. I lived there from the time I was about 7-ish, maybe 8-ish, somewhere around there, till about 14. So I did catch horned lizards up there too, but usually reptiles. Not usually reptiles. Usually snakes. Yeah, I believe lizards are reptiles too, right? But anyhow. So that's kind of just the basic beginning of my love of reptiles. So you wondered? There you have it. All right. So what do we have here but a little Thamnophis proximus, little ribbon snake. See these guys all the time, but I love them. There is one thing that I would like to talk about. Not one thing really, but one person that I would like to talk about that I think are on a lot of people's minds, and specifically in the reptile industry. But I even saw a news clip about it. So, he's made a lot of impact with a lot of people throughout his lifetime, and it is important to, to say something about Brian Barczyk. Brian Barczyk, as many of you may know and should know, has been a huge influence on so many people in the reptile industry, and not just the reptile industry, but just in just as far as animals go altogether. Because he didn't just care about conservation for reptiles, but with mammals and fish and everything. He was just an all in all out animal lover and a human lover, because if anyone has ever seen him, see, I've never met him in person, and I'll admit to that, but if anyone's ever seen the interactions he has with other people, there is just no doubt that he was just such a loving, caring person. And unfortunately, recently we lost him to pancreatic cancer. And it's quite unfortunate, because he was a great person, and his legacy will live on forever. I guarantee you, okay? It will live on forever. And I hope to go see the legacy one day for myself. I would love to be there for the grand opening, but being that, I'm not exactly rolling in the dough, and, as far as just my life situation right now, I don't know if it's going to allow for that, but I definitely am going to go see the legacy one day. And, it's just unfortunate that I never got to meet Brian Barczyk in person, because he was just such an amazing person and an inspiration to me and so many people. And all I can say is, the world is it's lost a beautiful person. And I don't want to make this a sad episode, but it needed to be said, and I just wanted to share my thoughts as far as that goes. And I'm super happy that his son decided to take on more responsibility with the channel, and then also, which 5 million strong, which is amazing, which shows how many people he's touched, obviously. But I'm glad that he decided to do that, and I really look forward to continuing to see them, to his family and the people that he knew, and the people that he employed, and that he touched their lives, so greatly, to see them and how they progress as well. So keep on watching Brian Barczyk's channel. Just because that he's not around anymore does not mean that, his legacy doesn't live on. It doesn't mean that his essence isn't still here. So that's about all I have to say for today. And, other than that, I'd like to tell you guys, I really appreciate you watching my channel. I really appreciate you sharing my love for reptiles, or maybe even acquiring a new one, hopefully, because I always, I love hearing stories about people who were afraid of snakes, or were, they may have had some negative, beliefs or inclinations towards them, and were able to find, their beauty and maybe even appreciation for them, through the things that I've shared. And if that's possible, then that's what matters to me. But so if you the more you like and comment and subscribe, especially subscribe, but definitely like. If you like my videos, give me a like, and give me a comment. Just short comment is great, because that's gonna help boost the YouTube algorithm. Have to deal with that stuff.